broadcast. And then I am also going to record this session separately because the YouTube broadcast was doing something kind of funky earlier. I don't know if it's working correctly or not. So if anybody is trying to watch this live on YouTube and it's not functioning correctly, eventually I'll replace it with one that does work since I'm also recording this.
Absolutely. And while we're getting started and getting this going, do you want to point out the caption feature, the live caption feature?
Absolutely. So if you look in the bottom, your toolbar along the bottom of Zoom, you should see a button that says closed caption, a little square with CC. And I think for on your end, it says turn on auto transcription. And if you click on that, you should now have pretty surprisingly good automatic captioning on your Zoom meeting. You should also have some closed captioning settings where you can change the font size and the position and a couple other settings. This is brand new. We also don't know if it's totally permanent yet. It was working for like 2 hours yesterday and then it stopped working again. So we're trying to, but this is a new feature that Zoom is rolling out using this automated AI enhanced captioning. Assuming we can make sure everything's working correctly, it's gonna be fantastic because we'd spent a whole Tech Talks last month trying to talk about ways to hack up some kind of system for doing live transcripts using, put your PowerPoint in the underneath your browser window and just have it running in the background or whatever. But having something built in and integrated is just so much easier.
Yeah, and I've been kind of playing around with the AI technology for a couple of years, and it seems like every 6 months it's improving by leaps and bounds. So fingers crossed it continues that way. But today we're going to talk about screenshots, screen capturing, and maybe some video feedback tools. And if this is your first Tech Talk, we're going to try to keep it about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'll open it up to questions for those that have questions about this topic or other questions about anything else. And so we use screenshots a lot in e-learning and teaching online. And in this environment, they become very helpful when showing certain areas, certain aspects of a website, certain aspects of your course. Often, navigating a website as a student, whether it's the college or a course, can be pretty tricky. There's a lot of text. It's very text heavy, and we all know students don't want to read everything. And so highlighting some aspects to point them to the right direction can be helpful. I find I use a lot of screenshots, and I use some of these video feedback tools a lot to show process, to show how to get something done. And so that's what I wanted to show with you today. And we're going to kind of start with some of the screenshots. And my resource that I use is take-a-screenshot.org. And I'm going to show you a few things for Mac and then PC. But it kind of goes through, hey, what system are you using? And what I think is handy is it shows you the keyboard controls and the shortcuts, because that's going to be helpful too. A lot of folks are familiar with the Snipping Tool on a PC. And that's an application. You can go down in the corner and you can launch the Snipping Tool, and then you can shape it. But Windows and Macs also have this just built in as a shortcut. And so the easy one for Windows, of course, is hit the print screen button. But then I think this aspect here, how do I take a screenshot of a single window? And what this does is or the specific area. And this is allowing you to define exactly what you're capturing. And so you got to get tricky with your fingers. I noticed on the Mac one, I had like a lot of dexterity problems. So it was kind of like learning the piano again. My hand was sore. But you hit that, on the bottom here, you can hit that Windows key, Shift, and then S. And then it brings up the ability for you to capture a certain area of your screen, which is nice. So if you guys are PC users, that's going to be a good tool for you. if you're a Mac user, I'll show you those too. But one thing I recommend going to check out this website because it's going to tell you where does that image end up going. Oftentimes it's copied to your clipboard, so then you can just paste it. But sometimes it also downloads it as well. So if you're a Mac user, here's going to be your settings as well. So it's going to be your Shift command. And then 3 or 4. 3 is going to capture your whole screen. 4 is going to capture just a section of your screen. And then what I learned today, and maybe Caleb didn't know this either, is if you do the Command Shift 4 and Option, that's where my hand started cramping, then it doesn't actually make it a file. It just allows you to copies it to the clipboard and doesn't save extra files on your hard drive. Kind of cool. So does anybody have any questions on this? Do you know these? Did you know these shortcut keys before? No, so learn them. They're a whole lot easier than pulling up the snipping tool, I've found. That's kind of a pain, especially when you're taking a bunch of little screenshots of your course or whatever you're trying to show your student.
Well, and that website, the takeascreenshot.org, is also a super helpful resource to just send to your students if you need them to give you a screenshot. I mean, you could spend 15 minutes of your day trying to figure out what system they're on and then giving them instructions, or just tell them, please take a screenshot. This website will tell you how to do it. And it doesn't matter what system they're on, if they're on a phone or whatever, it'll give them those instructions already. So it's a big time saver there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's showing, instructions are for Androids and iOS devices as well. And so if they're just on their phone, it'll show them how to do that too. The next thing I wanted to talk about was some video feedback. I've found the tools for making short, and I'm going to call them like throwaway videos, meaning one-time use videos. We've got some really cool tools for that. Even just a few years ago, we would be using something like Panopto to make a tutorial video for one specific student or for one assignment to give some feedback on. And we know Panopto has its strong suits, but quick videos is not one of its strong suits. It's really good for a more polished lecture, not for a quick video. I've found a couple tools, Loom and Techsmith Capture, to be pretty handy for this. And I'm going to jump out of the slide deck and kind of demo them for a little bit. I've used Loom, I think, with a few of you. I know Michelle on some instructions that I want to show her or anybody. And I'll talk to you about what I like about Loom. If I go to loom.com, this is going to show my account and then the library of videos that I've created. And so I usually make these for just one specific person, for them to view once or twice, and then I don't care if that video just goes away forever. And in fact, Loom, the account that I have with Loom, or the pricing that I have with Loom, that's the model. After, I think you can have 50 or 100 videos, and then it just starts throwing away the old ones. So it's not something that I want to keep forever. But if I do, I can download them. But it's good for I was thinking giving students a video feedback on assignments. What I like about Loom is it lives right here in my browser. And so I always use Chrome, and it's just here. I just press it whenever I want to make a quick video. I can select if I want to capture myself here, or I can say, I can adjust my sizes. I can say, no, I just want to do my screen only. And then I can put my picture here, and then I can go ahead and start recording. And so you just click here, and my account gives you a 5-minute limit. I found that actually to be beneficial because it helps me be a little bit more succinct in what I want to say. But what it will do is it will just go ahead and it will record my entire screen, or I can have it record if I had a different monitor up, I can select that monitor. And so I can go ahead and capture it. What's cool is the moment I'm done recording, and let's see if I can do Zoom and Loom. We'll see. Might just get confused and freak out. Okay, it thinks it can do this. So here we can see our timers chicken away at the bottom here. So you know if you got to speed up at all. You can go ahead and delete your video here. But once you're done, you go ahead and click plus or the check. And just like
kick your dog out of the room.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
And just like that, I'm able to share this video link. So that video is done and it's ready to go. So, you know, imagine the time it takes for Panopto. But, you know, doing this in Panopto takes, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes. But with Loom, I'm already done with it. And so I think that's kind of the benefit there is it's really a quick video process. The next one that I want to show, and I'm moving because the dog's going to go bananas. Looks like we got something in the chat. Let me pop that in there. Oh. And the next one that I want to show is from Techsmith. Techsmith had a fantastic screenshot tool and a fantastic little video capture tool like Loom called Jing for years. But Jing was built on Adobe Flash and it kind of went away as of this year. It's another free product. It's not quite as handy because it doesn't live in my Chrome browser that I've figured out yet. However, it's pretty handy as well. I can just keep this active. I click capture and you see here, I can manipulate what I want to capture. So I can click, hold, and drag. So maybe I would just want to capture this section of my screen. And then I can choose whether if I want to take a photo or whether I want to take video. If I do video, I can turn on my mic, turn on my camera, I can kind of manipulate those things. But it's very similar to Loom. I've found to be a little more comfortable with Loom, and so that's what I'm sticking with. But this does have a nice quick key command, and so it pops up and it's fast and it gives you the ability to provide like a quick link for feedback. And I think that's what's key is if we want to use this as a tool for assignment feedback to students, or we want to use this as a tool to show a process to the whole class, it's got to be quick and it's got to make it a little, you know, easy process for students. And you know, the students at the end of the day, if it's Loom or Jing, what they end up getting is just a link. So I can copy a link and I can put it in an email and send it to them, and boom, they can get that video. They can reply to it. You get a notification whether or not anybody's actually seen that. So it's kind of helpful that way. But Loom, Capture, or Techsmith Capture, pretty easy tools for that video feedback. And then learn those little shortcut key commands for your screenshots to kind of help make your day a little more efficient and a little more productive. Any questions on or thoughts on any of these tools? Do you have other tools that you use that you find to be helpful?
What about closed captioning, since students need closed captions?
Are
they available in the Loom or the Techsmith?
That's a good question. I'm not aware of that.
Because Panopto will put it in after you initiate it, but
yeah, it looks to me like I haven't really used the Techsmith capture much. I don't think Loom has built-in auto captioning. Just because, you know, like Ben said, it's kind of meant for that really short, almost disposable video. But if I knew that I had a student who had an accommodation, then that would probably not be a good tool for them. And if it was a video that I was going to give to the whole class, I probably wouldn't use Loom for that. Although I might use Loom to do the recording and then throw the recording onto YouTube or something, which would have the auto captions, or drop it into Panopto, either way. Or if it's like a longer lecture capture video, then you probably are better off using Panopto for a few different reasons.
What about using Zoom as your video capture, because it has the auto caption?
Yeah, with that as the with that as the new feature, it's pretty handy, right? You still have to upload it and process it, so but it's going to take just as long as using Panopto, but it is a feature that's available for you.
Thanks.
And if you were super fancy, Chris, you could probably get into a Zoom room, start your live captionings, and then pull a screen on top of it. So you've got your live captionings going here, and then your screen's on top of it, and capture all of that. If you wanted to get super fancy, I'm sure we could figure that out. But yeah, I'm glad you're asking questions about accessibility. And
yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of with Loom. Is it may not be appropriate for every situation, and it is a good idea to be aware of what your students' needs are, and if we know for a fact that a student needs captions or prefers captions, it might not be the right tool for that student. There's a couple other questions in the chat. Are there any editing capabilities with these video programs? Michelle asks.
No, quick and dirty.
Okay, so would you just, did I hear you say you could put it into Panopto and then edit that way if you desperately needed to?
Yeah, well, I've found a video that I didn't want to lose. I made it for a faculty member, and then I got the question 10 more times. And so what I then did was I downloaded it as an MP4 from Loom, and then I put it into Panopto and, trim the beginning, trim the end.
I think Loom does have like a really basic trim function where you can like cut off the first part of your video or cut off the end. So I think it does let you do that. So like if you clear your throat at the beginning of the video, you can chop off the first 3 seconds, but it doesn't have anything more complicated than that. And then Jennifer was asking, is Techsmith Jing the same as Snagit? I'm not familiar with the Snagit one.
Yeah, Snagit's kind of Techsmith capture with bells and whistles.
Okay.
You could maybe say it's similar to Camtasia, where there's more editing features and a little more robust, but still really easy to use.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the annotating screenshots is a good point. On my Mac, when I take a screenshot, let's go ahead and demo. Let's say I want to take a screenshot of this page. I can capture this. I can click on it. It pulls it down here. I can click it on here and do a few things to annotate over it. And I've found this to be helpful. I can highlight, throw an arrow down there or put a thought bubble or whatever you want to do. There's a few things that you can do, and then you can save it this way. Annotating this way is pretty slick. I don't know about the PC version. Does Snipping Tool have that?
Kind of.
Similar?
Kind of. It's awkward. I haven't figured out all the ins and outs of it, but I have a 2-in-1 computer, and so I have the pen, and I've written on some of my images and used that to do an illustration, kind of like what you were showing with the Loom, but that to take a picture and then write on it to say, hey, you're just looking at this one piece in this image or whatever needed to be focused on.
Okay, yeah. Jennifer has uploaded into the chat an example of her annotating with Snagit, it looks like, over a screenshot that she took. So giving students real specific feedback on within SpeedGrader and on the components of that's cool. Yeah, that's a handy way of doing it.
Hey, Jennifer, I did something similar with geology.
Yeah, it's just a very effective way to highlight the specific spots where you want people to pay attention to. And it's neat. Like if I try to use my mouse or my tablet to draw or sketch on a photograph, it's so messy. And sometimes I don't have the ability to get it all scratched on there. So I love the sort of bubble drag, add the text, highlight, colorize, and that's what I do in the Snagit feature. It's pretty awesome. How
much does Snagit cost, Jennifer?
Well, I don't think it costs anything. I've had it on I've got a school laptop here that I'm using at home, and I've had it on my school desktop forever. And then when I got the laptop, they just transferred it over. So I've never paid anything for it.
That's the right kind of price. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing Snagit. I think it's those annotation features are a little more robust than what you're going to get with the snipping tool. Well, how is it to launch? How is it starting it? One thing I really liked about Jing is that it was like a little sun, almost transparent, that lived on my desktop screen. No matter what applications were there, it was kind of floating around, and I could just click it and start, which was handy.
Yes. Snagit's the same. There's it's like just the bottom of this little rectangle that lives on the top of your computer, regardless of what tabs you have open. So it's on the desktop as well. And then if you just hover over that little bottom part of the rectangle, it'll drop down the option to start capturing, whether it be a screen or a live, not a live, but a video.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
So I was just taking a peek at the website for Snagit. It looks like, at least currently, there is a cost to it. There's an education price, which is a lot cheaper than just the normal price. But it's a one-time fee. So it might have been the case, Jennifer, that you or someone else paid for a license a long time ago, and then it just got copied over. But that is better than, it seems like a lot of like ed tech tools these days, their business model is like a subscription. So it's only $4 a month that you have to pay for forever. So there is a cost, but it's not very much, and it's a one-time cost. So you buy the license and then you just have it. So yeah, I mean, if it's a tool that you use on a regular basis, it's probably worth the money. And I don't know if your departments would buy that for you, or if that's a cost that they're gonna expect you to pay for. I don't know.
Yeah, you may just have to grease the wheels a little bit. Just to put a bow on it, I think screenshot tools, video feedback tools are pretty handy to make you a little bit more effective and more efficient in your work, especially in these days of teaching a lot of online, using a lot of Canvas, doing a lot of explanation. And we do that. We do a lot of teaching of how to do this, how to do my class, especially earlier in the term. So invest in a tool, or invest in learning those little keyboard shortcuts to make your time a little better. I know when it comes down to me trying to use the snipping tool, I'm really slow and I'm really bad at it, but the tools that I do know help me be a lot more efficient. So consider that, and thanks for joining us for Tech Talks this week. What do we got coming up next week, Caleb?
I think next week, you are doing analytics for Canvas and Panopto. Is that what it is?
Sounds great. Awesome.
Yeah. I hope you were going to do that, because that's what's on the schedule.
Excellent. Well, we've got a schedule and I'm going to stick to it. So join us next Tuesday for Canvas and Panopto analytics. Look forward to seeing you then. And stick around if you got any questions on any other topics. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, feel free to leave if you have other things going on, but if anything else on your mind, now's the time to lay it on us.
I have a question for you about 2 Canvas features, and I'm just curious if we have, maybe that you have archived trainings to point me to. But the first one is using groups in Canvas, like for instance, grading a group assignment. I do a lot of group stuff, and I briefly tried to play with it and I just stopped because I ran out of time. But I'd be curious, just kind of best practices on creating groups in Canvas and using it to grade. And then the other one I was curious about is the peer review function, and just maybe even just hearing from other instructors, like what does work well, what doesn't. I've used it some, and I feel like I don't use it well. I don't think I'm maximizing it at this point in my class.
Yeah, so what's your goal with groups?
So for instance, my leadership skills class, we do a lot of weekly group assignments. It'd be nice if like for instance, when they submit on Canvas right now, I don't use groups. So I just say one person from your group has to upload it. Then nobody else in the group knows whether or not that person really turned it in. And then when I enter grades, I have to go through and basically manually do it instead of like group one all got, you know, 5 out of 5. Or so just little things like that that maybe would just make lives a little bit simpler.
Yeah, what's nice about Canvas groups too is the discussion board feature as well. So it gives them a platform to chat and discuss on the project, to collaborate. What specific, do you have any specific questions about it?
No, just do you just recommend I play with it more to set it up and assign people to groups, or?
Yeah, you know, that of course, but you're going to also have to teach students how to access the groups, and that, you know, and then you're going to have to learn, because it's not really intuitive. You're going to have to learn how to navigate into the groups and go through the different groups to see what they're doing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty handy tool. It works well in Canvas.
Okay.
Ben, do we
I'm
have
gonna
like,
play with it.
yeah, do we have like materials for the students saying this is how it works from the student view, and so that an instructor could kind of plug that into a class if they're planning on doing group projects?
A few years ago, I made some training for faculty on it, and I'm not sure if that included student
Okay.
stuff as well, but I'll look into that and I'll point you to what we do have, Michelle.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
I get a copy of that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've done groups, and I've done it where everybody's replying and then they all can see the feed. But one of the things I notice in Canvas is if you don't have the discussion board up, they only see the assignment, and they don't know to go there and navigate and watch for replies. They have to have their notifications on, and they have to follow it. It's one of the, and one thing I learned, I tried it this last semester, and that's why I want your training, is I did an assignment in which I had groups within the assignment, and that was a nightmare to grade, because you had to go into the individual people, and the people didn't know who they were correlated with. And then you ended up backing out to get to the grade. So I had like 3 Canvas windows open while I was trying to assess how to grade each group and each individual with all the assignments. So if you have suggestions on how to do a good discussion board type of thing where you have groups and then they compare, I really appreciate it, because it was really hard to grade last time I tried that.
Yeah, and I think I'll share that with you. And I think folks that have found it to be successful and continue doing it also build in a lot of training on, you know, successful group participation, and, you know, there's group contracts, and identifying roles of group members is helpful. And I think that training kind of goes through all of that. So
Awesome.
I built it a few years ago, so I'll have to dig around and find it though.
And then Michelle, I think you also asked about peer review tool,
Peer
right?
reviewing, and I guess the other question is just if you had any archive training or recommendations on that, because again, I just don't feel like I use it well. I'm trying to get away from obviously not using papers in class where we peer review on each other's papers. We're doing it on Canvas. I just don't think I'm doing it. I don't think I'm maximizing probably what the program could do.
And, you know, I probably like groups. It's probably not you, it's probably the student training on knowing what to do. I know I had some awesome examples for students on how to do it from SEC Spanish and French instructors. I know Aaron Hubner and Diamond use a lot of peer review. Have you come across any of that, Caleb?
I haven't yet. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with either of those tools in Canvas yet.
Yeah, I'll share everything I have with you.
Might be a topic for a future training to cover again.
I think peer review definitely would be. And groups, really. Yeah, I think now's a good time to do that. Maybe that's something we can do in the next couple months, Caleb.
Yeah, we'll put it on the list.
Sure.
Thank you. And I'll reach out to Diamond too, because I'm in a tenure track group with her, so I could pick her brain.
Yeah. Yeah, hers was of course unique because they were doing it for language, and so I think they were using peer review as a way to kind of do language back and forth, like phrasing back and forth, and give some feedback. So I know she had good instructions.
Okay.
That sounds like something I'd like to see what people put out and how they do it.
Yeah, yeah, and you know those two are very thoughtful instructors. So if they're doing something, they're doing it right.
So I have a question regarding editing Panopto videos. My Panopto videos, I'm pulling up a Word document and then I'm writing on the Word document while I talk. And every once in a while I'll pause and then open it back up and I just continue going. But I'd like to learn to use the editing tools a little better, but I find their help not so helpful. Would you happen to have any like screen sharing type things where maybe you've done this and walked through some typical edits, you know, not just at the beginning or the end of the video, but somewhere in between, or where you've inserted another image or anything like that into Panopto? Because I need to do a little better editing in my Panopto. I've been just letting it go and I'd like to edit them better. Not just hit pause when I'm ready to pause. I like to actually have it, you know, get cleaned up a little more.
You know, I think, I don't know, you might be disappointed. Panopto is the jack of all trades. And it's really good because it allows recording right in Canvas, hosting and connecting to the Canvas courses, editing, quizzes, all of that. So on the big picture, it's pretty robust, but when specific things I don't think are really great tools, and the editing one, unfortunately, is that.
Okay.
It's not intuitive to edit, but then it's not easy to add clips and pieces inside, like in that video.
Okay.
I would almost, you know, you can edit out pieces throughout the Panopto video, and the best way to do that is just to get familiar with the timestamp, I believe, or the time. What do they call that? The timeline. And zooming in on that and zooming out, and then using I think it's like a scissors icon.
Yeah. The part that's kind of unintuitive about it is when you select those timestamps and you use that scissors tool, it doesn't actually cut anything out. It just kind of grays out that section a little bit. So when the students,
trouble with that.
Yeah, so when the students watch the video, as long as those little snips are set correctly, it just skips over those, and that's a kind of editing. But like when you as the instructor are looking at it, it still shows everything. It's kind of confusing the way the interface works.
Yeah, I've been having trouble with engaging that little cutting tool when I'm doing it on my laptop. And I don't know if it's a click thing that I'm not doing right or what, but I've just kind of given up on it and just said, okay, they're going to see my screen share and I'm just going to go right to my document, and just, that's what I've been doing. I'd like to fix it, but I just don't know. I don't have time to figure all this stuff out right now. I got so much going on.
Yeah.
Then, really, I wouldn't worry about it because students really don't care. As long as there's not huge pauses where they're waiting.
Okay.
You know, students actually pretend, you know, they perceive you as being more connected and more like them when your videos aren't super polished anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say is, I mean, yeah, students don't usually mind if there's little glitches in your video. They don't have to be perfect and super highly produced. And it seems like sometimes when we do spend like a super long time making a really slick polished video, it almost kind of turns the students off a little bit. And it feels less genuine sometimes. So I don't think it's hurting anything for them to see your desktop for a second when you open up a new document. As you know, as long as you know where everything is and you're not spending 5 minutes finding the document, I don't think it's that big a deal, to be completely honest.
I've been hitting the pause buttons. I felt so smart when somebody told me about that, and I was like, oh man, I don't have to stop a video and start a new one.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to handle it, just to kind of pause for those parts where you do need to do some setup.
Yeah.
If it were me, I would try not to lose a ton of sleep on the editing for the most part, unless it's like a really serious error or something. And there are ways there is a tool where you can insert a second video clip in the middle of an existing Panopto video clip. It's not super intuitive. I think I sent instructions to an instructor a little while ago, so I can send that to you as well, Chris, just so you have it.
Because I sometimes when I go back and I look at the video, I think, oh, I should have put this here, but I've already recorded it, and it takes so long to get everything ready and gone, and then, you upload it, and then you got to auto caption it, and then you're kind of reading through to make sure the words aren't getting too wacky.
Yeah.
And that's something we could help with too, Chris. We've got an instructional media specialist, Rick Sir, who if you said, hey, I have this clip and I want to insert it at, 10 minutes and 36 seconds. Can you do that for me? And he'd be able to do that for you.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Right now, I'm kind of doing things on the fly because I just got added to you guys, just new to your campus and everything, and I'm teaching online. I'm teaching chemistry online.
Wow.
I have the lecture notes from a totally different book, so I'm winging it. Every week I'm giving new material. So right now it's kind of like, okay, what's the thing I need to get done this week?
So you're keeping your head above water. That's about.
I'm struggling.
Yeah, and sometimes it's okay to kind of reveal that to your students a little bit and just say, this is the situation. We're kind of building this together. My videos are not going to be super polished yet because we're still catching up on this curriculum, and I feel like most students appreciate that. They kind of appreciate the honesty and the transparency.
Okay. Well, I do have one more question regarding the Panopto, and then I'll let you guys get to your business. So I know you can do quizzes in Panopto. Is there a way to give like some kind of, not really participation points for watching the video, but kind of verify that everybody has watched a video rather than just using the analytics? Is there something a tool that you can incorporate in the Canvas grade book or something that you can watch and see, hey, these people are watching it, the week before, these people are watching it the day that something's due? I mean, is there any way to?
I think that would be the Panopto analytics.
Okay.
And
so stay tuned for next week's session.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But also, some instructors, they do use the quiz questions in Panopto, and they just make the questions super easy, so that it's not super high stakes, but students get grade points for watching the video and answering the questions. And that is one way to make it a little easier to ensure that participation, because it doesn't have to be a huge exam. They don't have to be really difficult questions. It's just about getting them to watch the video and pay attention.
So Jamie at SCC, she was getting frustrated. Students were gaming the Panopto quizzes. They were skipping just to the question and answering it, and skipping to the next one, answering it, so that they could unlock the next page in their course. And so she decided to scratch the Panopto quizzes for that quarter and just put in Easter eggs in all of our new videos. And so at one point throughout the lecture, they're only like 15 minutes. She'd say, okay, today's Easter egg, or this lecture's Easter egg is blank. And then the students would have to answer that question in a short Canvas quiz.
Oh, I like that idea, because then even if they're fast forwarding, they're at least seeing the material.
Yeah, and she'd make them like a joke, knock knock, who's there, and then she'd say, what's the punchline of the knock knock joke or something.
Yeah, I like that. it's fun, it's easy. And then, yeah, the students, they don't know when the joke's going to come up. So they got to at least kind of pay attention for the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Oh,
the ones
yeah.
that watched the videos, you know, from start to finish anyway, just now thought it was hilarious.
Bad chemistry jokes in. That would be awesome.
There you go.
Well, with chemistry, you should just have like explosions and stuff. Random.
No, that's the worst part of not having labs is, you know, that's the best part of chemistry lab is seeing the stuff react.
Yeah.
Just looking at it in the book is boring.
Yeah. Have you ever tried doing any lab recordings where you could actually record some of those lab demonstrations?
I did one lab recording for a different school. I'm also at Walla Walla Community College, and it went okay, but between me doing this for my first demo and the guy's video skills and editing skills, which were nil, it didn't turn out very good. I am interested in developing some better tools in the future. If I continue doing online, we definitely want.
That might also be a question for Rick. You might, if you come up with a specific idea of a demonstration in a lab that you'd really like to do a recording on, he can set up a time. I probably shouldn't like speak for him, but often he can help you do those recordings. He can bring some better video equipment into the lab and actually do it with you.
It would take some planning, and I think part of it would be just figuring out, you know, what pieces the students would actually be recording.
Yeah.
You know, that
might be worth thinking about.
Absolutely. And he's a pro, so he could definitely help you make something of pretty good quality.
How do you spell his last name?
SUHR.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Right. Bye.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and then I will stop the broadcast. And yeah, I'm looking at the YouTube management page. It was still cropped just in the corner of the video for some reason. So I'm going to see